Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. So today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a reading vlog. A fellow booktuber here, Courtney, over at the Book Nook Corner, I'll have her channel linked below in the comments. She has 2 monthly book clubs, and for the month of June, the picks were Heartless Hunter and What the River Knows. And so What the River Knows, I've actually had for quite a while. I got it in one of my, when I went to the library one time, it's in one of those book hauls. So this is the perfect time to read it. And then the library also had Heartless Hunter, so I went ahead and picked that up. I really love this cover. I love the little, jeweled moth on there. And so Heartless Hunter is I guess I should say romantasy. It is definitely a fantasy though. It's set in a different world where there are witches and witch hunters. Witches used to be in power until 2 years before this book takes place. Then the witch queens were killed and now witches are hunted. And our main character is the Crimson Moth. She basically helps smuggle witches out of the country so that they aren't put to death. And that is all basically on the inside flap. And I have read so far 62 pages. And I will say it's relatively interesting. It's definitely much heavier on kind of high society, parties and stuff like that than action so far, but the conversations we get with characters kind of helps build up their relationships, their friendships, how they want them to be perceived, because the Crimson Moth, who is Rune Winters, she acts like an empty-headed socialite just so that people don't suspect her. And then we have Gideon, what is his last name? Gideon Sharp. He is the highest witch hunter, and so it's a dual point of view. You get to see both of them, and it's very kind of fun to see him when they're interacting and him thinking about, she's a pretty face, but that's about all there is to it, when that's really her plan all along. So that was kind of fun. And then in What the River Knows, I am actually exactly 100 pages into that. So this is more of magical realism, because it basically takes place in our Earth, back in the Victorian era, and our main character, who is Inez. I can't want to say Isabel, but that's the author's name. The main character is Inez. She lives in Buenos Aires, and her parents go to Egypt. When she finds out they were killed, she goes to Egypt to meet up with her uncle and try to decipher what has happened. When she gets there, she is greeted by his assistant, and they kind of don't mix well, and there is some pretty fun banter there, and seeing how they kind of play off of each other and everything. This is semi-dual point of view. It is mostly from Inez's, but you do get a little bit of Walt's, a couple paragraphs every chapter from his point of view. And so this one's pretty fun as well. I think right now, between the two, I'm enjoying What the River Knows a little more. I really enjoy like the mystery aspect and kind of seeing all these characters, and there's a lot more characters, and getting their conversations. I feel like their conversations are more gripping than in Heartless Hunter. Heartless Hunter is just kind of, like I said, we're still in like the socialite part, and so there's a lot to do with that. And we're getting some background to her, like smuggling them out. But right now, I'm not getting a whole lot of action. So yeah, I will be reading these throughout the month and updating you as I move through them and have thoughts. So I will see you next update. I'm now at page 180 in Heartless Hunter, and this is a very, very quick read. You know, you can see it's kind of big text, and there's a lot of like paragraphs and stuff. So, you know, yeah. And it is very fast paced. I would say this definitely feels kind of YA-ish a little bit. There is a lot of focus on the romance, but I don't feel like it's cheesy. I actually am enjoying it. And I am enjoying a lot of like the interactions with Gideon and Rune, because we've just come to a scene where Gideon is trying to catch the Crimson Moth, and he suspects it's Rune, so he tells her something that is bad information, and she follows it. She winds up there, and he's waiting, and although he doesn't know it's her, he doesn't actually see who it is. He just sees that it's somebody. He thinks to himself, well, if it's not Rune, then it has to be somebody she knows, because I only told her. And so then in the next scene, he's going to arrest her because she's a witch sympathizer. But then she says, oh no, well, I kind of mentioned what you said to some other people. Oh, was I not supposed to? And like plays it off. And he even makes the comment. He says she is either just an absolute bubblehead. What exactly does he say? I'm trying to find it here. He stared at Rune, unsure if she was obtuse or a master of deception. She had drastically widened his net of suspects, but intentionally or unintentionally, is she actively sabotaging me, or is she innocent? And especially, like, I just absolutely love that, and the way Rune is able to play this just so well, it adds, like, a whole layer, especially when you're going back and forth between her and Gideon, and it's kind of like the same scene, but different parts of it. So yeah, that's really, really cool. And then in What the River Knows, I got to page 130 into part 2. And so we get some more with Inez and Wit. And they do have some really fun banter. And we get to see a little bit of her uncle. And we're getting like a little bit of mystery. Well, I should say a little bit more of the mystery and some more characters. And I'm really enjoying the way the mystery's developing in this. Everything is kind of slowly unfolding, and you get all these parts, but you don't have all of them. And then, of course, the banter with Wit is very fun, and they become friends rather quickly. I think so far in this 120 pages, she has gotten the news at the beginning that her parents died. Then she went to Egypt, and we follow her the day she lands in Egypt and disembarks. And then we go through her whole next day, and then this is that second day's evening is when we end. So in this 120 pages, we basically get 2 days. So there's like a lot of details, I feel like, and there is a lot of conversations in here, and I really enjoy all the conversations and everything. So yeah, I'm really enjoying both of these, and I'm not sure which one I actually want to keep reading more, because they're both really fun and they both have their kind of different interests in them. So yeah, as I get further, I will go ahead and update more. So I got up to page 189 in What the River Knows now, and we are now like really getting into the mystery and into like the plot and everything. We have Inez, who has snuck onto her uncle's boat, and she has been found out now. She's able to talk her uncle into letting her stay, and she's starting to unravel some more of the mystery about her parents, and she has her suspicions that I don't know if I entirely agree with, but I can definitely see where they're coming from. And then we have some more scenes with her and Wit, and we get to kind of see them getting closer. And then we have this little conversation that I thought was really fun. So to give some background, she had fallen off the boat into the Nile, and there was a crocodile in there, and Wit jumped overboard to save her. And so now she's just talked to her uncle, and he says, yes, you can stay. And, go, this is the room you can have, go unpack. And so she goes to her room to unpack, and here's a knock on the door frame, and it's Wit. So he says, settling in, darling. And she says, I'd advise caution against addressing a lady so familiarly. Some unfortunate girl might read into your words. He threw his head back and laughed. If any one of them mistook it for deeper feelings on my end, well, I'd call them a proper idiot. Now, if I were to call a lady by her Christian name, that would be an entirely different story. I stilled, the ground I stood on shifting under my feet. Care to elaborate? Not really. I lifted my eyes and met his blue ones. You called me by my Christian name. He narrowed his gaze. When? When I was in mortal peril. Relief skittered across his face. Oh, well, that's different. Why? You were in mortal peril. And that's just kind of like really how they almost always speak to each other, and they have this little kind of snarky back and forth, sort of almost flirty, but trying to not be flirty. And yeah, I'm just finding it really fun. And like I said before, I'm really loving all the dialogue in it. All the conversations bring like a lot of stuff to light. They advance the mystery. They show characterization really well. And I'm definitely interested to learn more about like what is the truth, what is really going on here, and what exactly is Wit up to, because we see little snippets in his, paragraphs here and there. I said earlier they're at the end of every chapter. They're not. so you don't often get his point of view. Unless it's maybe at the most I think we've gotten so far is a page and a half that was from his point of view. And so there's a lot of mystery with him as well. And I'm really hoping that it's at least mostly resolved in here, and it's just kind of like either another mystery or something more to do with the archaeology point of it, like a mystery of where something is what brings us into the second book, because like I just really want to know. And yes, obviously I'm really enjoying this. And one thing I can say is What the River Knows, this is written in the first person point of view, and Heartless Hunter has been written in third person point of view. And I do actually really appreciate that about these, just because of the fact that I'm reading them at the same time, and they're both kind of fantasy, and so that can make them kind of blend together. One thing I will say, though, that so far in What the River Knows, I believe it even says here that, ancient magic, and, like, the whole thing is started with a magic-touched item, and we're really not getting a whole lot of that element about magic. And in fact, other than the magic touched item Inez has and another one she finds, and honestly they're not really used, it's just these are magic touched items. And now granted, the first one, it's like, oh, it could lead us to an archaeological site because the magic there should be the same as the magic on this item. So, but other than that, the other item she just randomly found, and then the third item is just kind of like, oh, it's there. And I feel like there could have been a lot more lore with that, although it does state that, this magic hasn't been practiced in a while, so that could also, kind of account for it. But yeah, I am, like I said, definitely finding this interesting and really want to know what's going to go on. But it's definitely still going to take me some time to finish because I'm only about halfway through. But I'll definitely have both of these finished by the end of June. So I finished Heartless Hunter today, and I have to say this was a very interesting book. It does remind me a lot of Serpent and Dove, just because of the whole witch hunter thing. And the writing style is very fast paced. When I would sit down to read this, I could easily get through 100 pages at a time. And even with just like half an hour, I'd get through close to 60. So it's definitely very fast paced. And the plot is very interesting. However, I did feel like it was a little romance heavy. And that wasn't bad, but it just wasn't quite what I was expecting. I was talking with Courtney and some other people on one of her live streams, and I said, it's kind of cheese, but in a good way. And I feel like that's the best way to describe this, that, it's a very quick and easy to read book that has a lot of like twists and turns that while you may see that particular twist coming, how it's executed is fresh enough that it doesn't really detract from it. So I do definitely recommend this, and I will hopefully be finishing What the River Knows very shortly, hopefully tonight, possibly tomorrow though, because I'm only about halfway through that. So yeah, I will update you when I finish that book. I finished What the River Knows, and this was a pretty interesting book. I liked the characters, and while I did like the magic, I felt like it should have either not been there or been more of a part of the story. Like, I just really didn't feel like it added a whole lot to the story. I don't feel like the story really felt magical. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it just kind of felt tacked on to me personally. And I did really like Inez and Wit, especially in the last about 100 pages. And then the cliffhanger on the ending of this makes me really, really want book 2, but that is not out until October or November, I believe it is. I know it's not out yet, so yeah. It was definitely very interesting, and I do recommend it if you like historical books. This did have a lot of historical detail, and I did like the way that all the settings were described. I felt that's one thing that Isabel Ibáñez did really good, is she described the settings to where you actually felt like you were there, and that was one of my absolute favorite parts of this book. So that is everything I have for you today. Those were the 2 June picks for Courtney's book groups over there at the Book Nook Corner, and I will have her channel in my description so you can go and check out her videos and check out her Discords, which are linked in her video descriptions, and I will of course have my Discord linked in my description. And thank you for visiting me here in the Book Cave, and if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to be notified every time I post something new, and I will see you next time in the Book Cave.